上当百年，欺世大官。
Hello everyone, and welcome to Deception of the World. In the last episode, we talked about how West Point had to spend a lot of manpower and resources to dispel the rumors, and they were exhausted. And this is part 2 of West Point. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you all. Now back to the topic. West Point officials again made a statement that West Point also later said that while history and Chinese classes might discuss Lei Feng, the military academy did not appreciate him or his philosophy. Everyone, West Point still doesn't understand the patriotism and foreign admiration of the Chinese Communist nationals, and you can't deal with these two even more when they are mixed. If I were a Chinese employee at West Point, I would definitely give the most useful suggestion. Set up with signs in Chinese at the main entrance and the main intersection of the campus. There is no LeiFeng in our school. Please go back to your country to find it. Absolutely half the effort. Good patriots will stand by the sign, stick out 2 fingers, take a photo, and post it to social media. On January 5th, 2012, a Sina Weibo user asked the official microblog of the US Embassy in China, "When I was in school, it was said in the textbook that a statue of Chinese soldier Lei Feng was erected at West Point. Is that true?" The US Embassy in China replied, "There is no statue of Lei Feng at West Point, nor is there a portrait of Lei Feng. And similar claims are misinformation. See, tired, right? It's been 10 years and people are still asking." After another 3 years until 2015, the originator of the old man, Li Zhuyun, publicly apologized to readers online, admitting that he had misquoted from an article, West Point to learn from Lei Feng, from Western media's April Fool's Day news, and used it as teaching materials. The statement has widely spread and gained acceptance. Now you know how you get fooled. The high-end party media, Xinhua News Agency, can take the April Fool's Day news as the real thing. What else it doesn't dare to fool us? We really like the comment left in our last episode. Every punctuation is a lie, not to mention the words. Unfortunately, despite the fact that the lie of learning from Lei Feng at West Point has been repeatedly debunked, there are still people who believe it and are still spreading it. The reason for this is that they believe Lei Feng, who was established by the CCP, as a noble figure. So how can Americans not learn from him? What a pity. The real Lei Feng was not how the Communist Party's propaganda advertised him to be. Lei Feng was actually a 4 lovers fashion lover, photography lover, manatee lover, and falsification lover. You don't believe me? Look at his so-called good deeds without leaving a name. Helping the lady carefully, maintaining the car, taking care for elementary school students, helping the community make fertilizer, learning selected works of Mao and etc. Did not leave a name but left a photo. There were paparazzi following him. If not, why he is so neat in the picture? It happens to be all little Lei star photos with positive energy, and they are all in high definition. You made the right guess. It's really all the paparazzi's team's masterpiece, and even official paparazzi. According to the party media's classification, there were a total of 8 army photographers to take pictures of Lei Feng. He and 2 of them who took the most photos were Zhang Jun and Ji Zheng. In 2003, the West China City News interviewed the former assistant propaganda reporter for the Shenyang Military District Zhang Jun. He admitted that the photos of Lei Feng's good deeds were made up, and he has taken 222 photos of Lei Feng for 9 times. In addition, the author Mu Zhengxin, who has written many articles to expose the falsification of Lei Feng, said that many of Lei Feng's so-called helping people's deeds were directed by a department of the Shenyang Military District. Photography staff Zhang Jun, Ji Zheng, and other cadres just designed the scene, deploy personnel, specify the costume, and then direct Lei Feng and other mass actors on the stand position, pretend postures and facial expressions. Between this fake heroic blockbuster with full screenwriting, directing, photography, and the movie Wolf Warriors that encourage you to love the Communist Party, is there a difference? By the way, this show will not slander real heroes, but will never agree with the fake, especially the Communist Party made fake figure. The nationally acclaimed Lei Feng diary was revealed by the party media to be a collective patchwork of writing teams, and the amount of Lei Feng's donations was far greater than his income. Lei Feng wore socks with patches on patches, but wore a Swiss watch. Is such a Lei Feng a true hero? Is it worthwhile for you to learn? What does Lei Feng's falsification tell us? Wasn't it just Mao who sent words to the whole country to learn from him? Then, this little unknown soldier suddenly became a hero. If this such thing was put outside the communist society, everyone would take it as a joke. But in our communist country in China, he is an unquestionable figure. In addition to Lei Feng's fake story, let's talk about another lie. In 2008, a party media reported that Mao on Protracted War had won the global military community's approval and was also taken by the US West Point Military School as a must-read text. As we all know, the party's propaganda is the best at talking big words. Since someone began to brag about on Protracted War, soon later it evolved like this statement: the United States of America's West Point Military Academy, Mao Zedong's military ideology is a mandatory course. Is this really the case? Check the official website of the West Point Military Academy. The curriculum of West Point is divided into 3 categories: scientific and cultural courses, military courses, and physical education courses. Whether it is a compulsory course or a public core course, there is nothing called Mao Zedong's military ideology. The real situation is that, on Protracted War, is only a reference for several elective courses at West Point, generally when introducing the theory of guerrilla warfare. Only then, Mao's guerrilla warfare and the so-called People's War theory and practice will be mentioned. On Protracted War was published in May 1938, at the beginning of the War of Resistance against Japan. Although the text discusses the process of forming, decision-making, and implementation of Chiang Kai-shek's idea of protracted war, and its significance for persisting in the War of Resistance against Japan until victory, but for more than half a century in mainland China, not only did no one know that Jiang had the idea of protracted war, but anyone who knew that there was a protracted war thought, instead, that this outstanding strategic idea was part of Mao's ideology. There is no doubt that this is a historical lie. Hao Bo-chun, a famous general of the National Army who participated in the War of Resistance against Japan and served successively as chief or staff of the National Army, directly denounced Mao's so-called unprotracted war as a copy of Jiang's homework. Of course, Hao is not so fashionable. He used the word copy. According to the research findings of Mr. Xin Haonian, a scholar in the United States, the main point of Mao's unprotracted war is not to resist the war, let alone actively resist it, but to discuss how the Communist Party should use the protracted war of defense to achieve the fundamental goal of expansion and power seizure. Judging from Mao and the Communist Party's performance in the War of Resistance, it did do so as well. With that kind of military thinking, what is there to learn from West Point? Lastly, let's talk about the third lie. In December 2014, Qiao Liang, a professor at the Communist Military National Defense University, wrote that decades after the signing of the North Korean Armistice Agreement, researchers at the US Military Academy at West Point tried to recreate the Battle of Sangam Ridge, which led directly to the Armistice Agreement using computer simulations, but he couldn't figure it out. He also said that it has long been written that the US Army was so scared of being beaten at Sangam Ridge that it named it Heartbreak Ridge. The Battle of Shanganling was listed by West Point as the most famous military case in the world and became the only Chinese case included in the textbooks of American military academies. The Air Force Major General named Qiao, who is famous for writing Unrestricted Warfare and enjoys a special allowance from the communist regime, claimed that Shanganling has become a case study for many military scholars in the world because of its many miracles in the history of warfare. Is the truth as Major General Qiao says it? Apparently not. In the US Army's war history, there was no mention of the Sangam Ridge campaign or the Goldenization offense, which is a term created by Qiao, but only appears in the Communist military's war history data. The number of troops, military strength, and targets used in the so-called Goldenization offense are also unclear. The Battle of Shanganling, which the CCP boasts about, was actually just a part of the Battle of White Horse Hill, or in written terms, a large, high-intensity battle in a tactical attack or counterattack. The battle was merely a feint to the Battle of White Horse Hill. If you want to know the details, new friends can take a look at other episodes about the Korean War. In the US Army's public records, the only record that corresponds to the timing of the Sangam Ridge campaign is the one codenamed Operation Shutdown during October 14th to 24th in 1952. In other words, the US Army did not take Shanganling seriously, but only Tiaoliao took it as a bridge to his own fame. The whole Korean War, the only sad thing for the people in the Communist Party was they paid the price of tragedy for millions of deaths in the Communist troops to protect the little brother in North Korea, Kim Il-sung, not to extinguish. Although the CCP faked the war history, saying Sangam Ridge is the US Army's Heartbreak Ridge is just nonsense, and the battle by West Point in the most famous examples of the battle is also nonsense. But the US Army really has a Heartbreak Ridge, which is in the eastern part of Korea. The battle took place in September 1951, when a journalist witnessed the battle on this peak and shouted the name Heartbreak Ridge. At that time, the US Army lost more than 1,000 people, and the main opponent was the North Korean Kim family army. Sangam Ridge was near the middle of Korea. The distance between the two is about 50 kilometers. Sangam Ridge battle took place in 1952, which was after this battle. The Battle of Sangam Ridge, the name of which the US archives do not even bother to record, will be included in its textbooks at West Point? Bandit communists, you are too full of yourselves, right? That's the end of the story, and through the 3 lies the Communist Party made up around the United States Military Academy at West Point, we have seen more lies it has concocted and is still deceiving the people of China. Such lies have been flooding the land of China since the day the Communist Party was founded, deceiving generations of the Chinese descendants. We hope that all wise and conscious fans will join the righteous team to fight against the Communist Party, expose the lies of the Communist Party, and save the nation and future generations from the disaster. Thank you all for watching Deception of the World. If you like our video, please subscribe, share, and like. And we'll see you next time in the next episode.